interwebs, 'tis I again, here to review comic book books for you in the mess at the back of the famous faces and funnies. While you are watching this on the GonnaGeek.comification, which is not a mess, it's all a nice and neat little road. So a little juxtaposition here. This is F3G2. I am Sebastian, but that's irrelevant. These are comical books. You already knew that. Let's talk about some. Darth Vader, number 11, continues to give you the origin you wanted for that missing years of young Vader. And in this, he's hunting down rumors of Jedi and in true Vader form, he fails to win friends and influence people. So, ninth sister of the, what the hell are they called? The Inquisitors, is not really in a big rush to help him as he goes off and encounters an unfortunate family, father, mother, and daughter of bounty hunters who've been paid to take down Jedi, and apparently they don't know what a Sith is. When they see Vader show up with a lightsaber, they think he's a Jedi, and they go after him. That's not really a thing you should do, especially with your family. Nope. Savage Dragon, Sinister Sex Dolls, Savage Dragon 231.
It's all about sex with him now, isn't it?
It is. There are whole pages of just aliens with giant penises, and all the women trapped in Dimension X have no clothes. But we meet what looks like another Malcolm. We get severed penises.
Oh.
From one of the sex bots who apparently watched the movie Teeth. We get was the shark guy, now there's like the shark girl, and apparently she's got a dragon baby.
Good God.
I don't know.
So many dragon offspring.
At this point, I think I'm just still reading it because I have so many. I'm like, so it skipped softcore and went straight to, like, this is one of those under-the-counter, like should be right next to, past the Omaha the Cat Dancers and more into the Cherry Pop-Tart realm. That's your thing. Action Comics 997 continues. Superman and Booster Gold. Skeets has a rough day. He gets squished. Don't start quoting. If you're a little floating robot, don't start quoting your Kryptonian history around Zod, who doesn't want to be lectured on Kryptonian history.
Let's be honest, he brought it on himself then.
Also, because they're not telling Lois's dad that Jonathan has powers, because then he'll know that Clark is Superman. Lois looks like the worst mother ever, as on a rescue mission to save her father from who's been taken as a prisoner of war. Jonathan sneaks along, shows up, and sort of saves them, but he doesn't. Grandpa doesn't. General Lane doesn't know that Jonathan saved them. So all Sam Lane knows is, you brought a kid into here. So Lois looks like a douche. Speaking of people that look like douches, oh dear. Detective Comics 974. That dark future that future Tim Drake told about is starting to lead. Tim Drake is devastated by the fact that everything he's doing seems to be leading to exactly the thing he's trying to avoid. What was it that Batwoman does that that is supposed to set all of this in motion? She kills Clayface.
Oh,
she shoots him in the head. Cassandra Cain does not take well to that. The whole little team is falling apart, and it's really, can Tim make the dream work? Can Tim be better than the dream? Tim and Bruce talk to each other like there's an amazing relationship, and James Tynion gets that. Tim and Bruce talk to each other, yell at each other, and then console each other on a level that Dick, Jason, even Damien and Bruce don't. Because I think, Tim, it's always been, Tim really is Bruce's equal and probably superior in the fact that Tim doesn't have the level of baggage and is not as stuck in, this is the way I do things, he can walk around without just telling everyone, I'm Red Robin. Batman has to reinforce the I'm Batman. Titans are finished. The Justice League, this is Titans number 20. Justice League has forced the Titans to disband. Looks like after the regular DC universe eventually killed Roy Harper's daughter and then, went crazy from there. The comics, not Roy Harper himself, although he did go crazy, but not as crazy as he wasn't as crazy as the comics were. Like, what the fuck is happening? But it looks like they may have just conceived Leanne because he hooks up with Cheshire, who's already his ex, but he hooks up with her again. Wally's moving into a place of his own. Dick and Wally have a bonding moment. Roy and Donna Troy have like a falling out moment. And can I tell you how happy I am to have Paul Pelletier drawing anything again? I'm so happy. And he's drawing... He's one of those artists that I love, and they love to put him on. What's he drawing? I don't want to read that. He's actually on something I want to read. It's like stars. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Dark Kniggets Rising. The Wild Hunt. A lot of things happen.
A lot of bad things.
Some a good thing that immediately turns into a bad thing.
Sounds about right.
We get a heartbreaking origin of Detective Chimp that is sort of like his original, and then there's some differences. And now he's like losing his brain as the whatever. We do get Egg Foo, so there's like the whole conglomerate of scientists that were on the island in 52 are back trying to deal with this problem. So you got T.O. Morrow and Will Magnus and Egg Foo all trying to figure out how does it. But Barry is able to save Barry. Barry is able to redeem the speedster Batman from the dark multiverse, who now his costume turns gold. And since Bruce and Barry shared a body in that, now it's Bruce is gone and it's Barry. But whenever there's a major event, a Flash kind of has to sacrifice their life for shit. So he's not back to Barry for long before he's back to nothing.
Of course. Marvel
2-in-1, Thing and the Human Torch. With one of those stupid Where is Wolverine backups that just... Is this the one where he just like... This one where he just like walks and you're like, what the hell was the point of that? And oh yeah, this one he meets Hydro Man, and they don't even give him original dialogue. He says to Hydro Man the same line that he says to the guys who zap Kitty in the Hellions. Bub, you just made the biggest mistake of your life and the last. Although taking claws to a man who's made out of water really isn't going to do anything. Plus, the idea of Wolverine just deciding to kill someone because they walked up on his campfire and said, look, all your stuff is mine. No, I don't see Wolvius resorting to murder for that. But whatever.
Unless he knew who they were.
There's a doctor who restores powers for money and instead decides to help these guys because she wants to go with them traveling other dimensions. But we find out what's ailing Johnny, and it's apparently also ailing Ben. Johnny's down to 73% power. Ben is down to 81% power, and the problem is that all their powers come from the same source, and they form a conduit loop, so the longer the Fantastic Four is separated, the more their powers break down. So without Reed and Sue, powers are starting to fade. I don't know if it's affecting Reed and Sue, but they don't really show where they are outside of the universe and whatever. So... Oh, that happens every time. with the light.
Damn it. All right. Hang on a second.
I'm scared.
Are you scared looking? There we go. Now I can see what I'm doing.
Occurs to me that
Problem is, now I'm tripping on everything. God damn it!
you were doing better when you couldn't see. Oh, and now did you actually reach it, or did you just set it off from standing?
I reached it.
How impressive is. Boop, boop, boop. Okay. Animosity, evolution, the smart animals revolution is... This really is so great. This is like an anthropomorphic Walking Dead. The animals gain intelligence, society falls the fuck apart, and now there's camps. Some are all animals versus people, some are all people versus animals, some are people and animals versus other people and animals. Is complicated. But I love this, although somebody needs to take this cybernetic turtle down. He's a douche nozzle.
Cybernetic turtle?
Yep.
Okay.
Avengers, no surrender. Everybody still thinks Johnny's dead because they're not reading the Marvel 2-in-1. Everybody takes that shit hard. It turns out that Avengers cancer that they made up for the last one, that's not a thing, and there is no radiation in Jarvis, so whatever's keeping Jarvis unconscious is beyond that. There's a theory that I personally like, which is that Jarvis, ever since Jarvis has been unconscious, is when this Avenger that no one seemed to remember, but until the exact moment she showed up, Voyager is there, and they think that Voyager comes from Jarvis's head. Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider, even though it's really got both Scarlet Spiders in it, which is what makes me happy. This is number 14. This is
Ben and Kane.
Bad to the Bone, part 1 of 1, and we got Kane versus a hippo guy, and the weirdest Spidey versus Mysterio you'll ever see, as wearing just a ski mask, Ben Reilly shows up to check in on Mysterio, who just really doesn't want to be a part of the game anymore and just wants to be a good person and live a normal life because he died and went to hell, and he's not thrilled with that. Judas, number 3 of 4. Jeff Loveness and Jacob Rebelka. Jesus has taken on the sins of man, all the sins of the world, and then died with all the sins of the world. So he went to hell. Where the devil points out that this was always God's plan and you can't trust God, and he tells you all of this, and all Judas wants to know is, did Jesus know the whole time that, was it always, did he have a choice, or was he always going to be the one who betrayed him? And Jesus is like, I've always known there was no other way. And Judas is like, then I was wrong. I didn't betray you. You betrayed me. And then Jesus gets sucked down into the pit. And the devil's like, even I don't go down to the pit. Where did they take him? To the very pit itself, a place even I dare not go. Now the story is broken. We live our lives for here, and this is all we have. This is freedom. And Judas is like, no. And the devil's like, Judas, what are you? And he's like, no. The story may be broken. The story may have sent me here, but it's the only hope we have. You are the only hope we have, and I have to save you. So Judas jumps into the pit of hell to save Jesus. Captain America has been frozen and wakes up in the future. Again. Only this time in the future, he thinks he's like in the far-flung future, but apparently without Captain America, things go to shit quickly. Some millionaire bombs the government and then takes over.
Of course.
And it's only 2025, but we've got like talking animal people and all this shit. She's like, and there's one girl's like, how long do you think you've been out? And Cap is like, wait, and she's like, it's just 2025. But after dealing with these fascists that took, the rich fascists that took over, Cap wants to lead them to get their country back. Sideways, number 1, Dan DiDio and Justin Jordan writing, and what's Rockefeller's first name? I don't remember. I don't recall. I've got no memory of anything at all.
Sounds right.
Come on. It's a Dio book, so they hide it in the back. Yay. Kenneth Rockford. That's what I could not remember. Kenneth Rockford and Dan DiDio. Storytellers, Dan DiDio and Justin Jordan. Dialogue, Daniel Brown. Colors. Jury's out. It wasn't bad, but it's very generic. He's a kid who, during the thing of Gotham, fell into the dark multiverse, gets powers. Now he can kind of travel between worlds. There's some giant godlike entity that sees this breaching power of his as a problem, and sentences him to death for using them. And that's where we leave off. He's got his support group of, he's got this one weird kooky girl, friend that's a girl, not girlfriend, and her twin sister that's the exact opposite and wants nothing to do with anything that has to do with either of them. All in all, it's like I said, it's not bad. It just has yet to separate itself from, I won't say so much Spider-Man, but more like this. This seems like this could have. It's a lot. I see Jaime Reyes in this. I see.
It needs its uniqueness.
Well, yeah, this is only the first issue, and it was basically giving us what we've got. So, I want to like the idea because I'm all about the, those are the things I like. You give me Speedball, you give me Superboy, you give me, Robin, you give me, all those kids on their own doing. Those are my favorites. Those are the things I read. Early Spider-Man. And I like this. It just hasn't found its separate niche. And aside from not being Ted Kord, my biggest grievance with the Jaime Reyes books has been, it was great that first time out. And then they ended it and rebooted everything. They rebooted the whole DC universe. And he became a watered down version of himself. And then they did they did the New 52, and then they did Rebirth, and he's like a watered down version of himself. And this has potential to become a knockoff of a watered down version of Jaime Reyes. But he's got, it's basically, there was a lot of it's like Jaime and Vibe, and two concepts DC pushed and missed the mark on, and then they seem to combine them into one thing, missing the mark on this. And I want more. I'm gonna keep reading it. I'm not, like I said, it's not bad. It just hasn't found its uniqueness, and I worry about, depending on how long it takes to find that uniqueness, whether or not that'll be too little, too late. Amazing Spider-Man, renew your vows. Peter's back to teaching. He has to take a job as a photography teacher at Midtown High, where his daughter goes. She's less than thrilled because taking pictures of superheroes, it's old hat. J. Jonah Jameson's like, look, I can't keep paying you the same rate for this. You just get me more pictures of Spider-Man and the Lizard. We've sold that. Justice League America, Deadly Fable, number 24. I dropped Justice League America. I literally popped back on this one just because of Return of Promethea, and it was underwhelming for this, and underwhelming.
Moving on.
Not necessarily bad, but not necessarily good either. It was just a book I read. Flash, Grodd versus Flash, and Grodd literally sucks the power out of him. We know we're going to get the Flash War, but for right now, this ends with Barry telling Wally, both Wallies, but telling original Wally, Grodd beat me, but he didn't beat the Flash. And Wally's like, we know, Barry, so just tell us. He's like, no, Wally, you don't understand. I'm not the Flash of Central City anymore. You are. And Barry seems to be okay, since the Flash and all the lies would have gotten him into a lot of trouble lately. Barry seems to be okay at the moment to not be the Flash. And the final book out of the things I read this week is The Amazing Spider-Man Annual 42. That's a lot of annuals. 42. Which is weird, because if an annual comes out every year, that's 42 years. Spidey came out in, when did he first appear? 1964, 1962. I was born in 1972, and I'm 45. I was like, I come out like 10 years after Spider-Man, and I've got 3 years. I'm 3 years older than him now. This story is basically, it involves, is there a Ned Leeds alive or dead out there? We get an answer to that. We also get just a backup surprise party for Peter story. Does throw a little bit of Mary Jane into his line of sights. So in the issue number 797, what's this? Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson reunited at last. Find out in this March in the Amazing Spider-Man 797. So there's little glimpses that when Dan Slott's done, he may just put all the pieces back and go, okay, here's what you've been bitching about that you wanted all these years. I've written some great Spider-Man stories, and you all continued to complain that this is what you wanted. Here, leave me alone. See if you're not. But, I want that back still, but I also like my Dan Slott Spider-Man. I would have been perfectly happy to have had the best of both worlds and have Dan Slott write a married Peter Parker and Mary Jane book. I would have been good. But everything he's done has been great, so I'll be sad to see him go. Matt, things to review. Dinosaur Tail! Help! Help me! Alright, don't. No. Just the internet. Don't believe everything you see.